I'm pleased to be joined by a very important guest. This guest is going to share his personal experiences with us, and to protect his safety, his identity, we're going to refer to this guest as Rick. Rick, how are you?
I'm pretty okay, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. And of course, your real name is not Rick. We're going to be talking about this situation that's come forward. I think a lot of people had seen that an ex-user by the name of Black Insurrectionist, somebody who I follow and have been watching his posts for a long time. Black Insurrectionist had a post just the other day alleging sexual misconduct by Tim Walz. And this is your story, correct, Rick?
Yes, it is.
What can you tell us about this?
It is very hard to find the beginning, so I will start telling you about the exchange program first. So there is an exchange program called FLEX, Teacher Leaders Exchange. And if you're a school student, for example, in my home country, and you study at school, you have an opportunity to go to the United States for 1 year for free, and you even get paid for it each month. When I was at the 9th grade, I think I wanted to go. I knew about that program long before. I wanted to apply to the program a year before, when I was at the 8th grade, but I couldn't make it because it's a very long and difficult process. There are a lot of tests and essays and different types of interviews because it is very hard to be chosen to be a part of the program. I couldn't do that when I was at the 8th grade, but when I was at the 9th grade, I have passed the first part, the second part, and the third part of the program, and I was going through the whole process during the whole 9th grade. So it took me 1 year to realize I could go to the United States and study there for free for 1 year. So I remember the phone call. That was a film I had at home. Somebody called and told me that, I'm a FLEX finalist and I had the opportunity to go to the United States. And at that time I was very happy and enthusiastic about it. And then after that, I still had a lot of paperwork to do, because basically they collect all the information about you: food you like, your family, where my parents worked, my siblings, my hobbies. They could pictures of me, of my families, of my friends, my essays, my thoughts, my grades at school. They collected every possible information before sending me to the United States. And after I was told that I could go to America, there were still a very long process, and we even had FLEX finalists from my country, a special camp, and American people were there. We were there for several days in another city, and we were taught what to do to fight the culture shock, or how to behave. We were told a lot of information during several days. Then after that, I don't remember, maybe before that camp or after that camp, I had an organization that was looking for my host family. And my new home was found in Minnesota, and I
knew that I would live in a host family, but I wouldn't like to share the information about my host family. Uh, so
Let me just
just
let me just ask you, if I may, Rick, because I get the impression that perhaps you feel that the host family had no idea that there was anything untoward going on. It seems like a lot of people might want to become involved in a student exchange program. If you had a high school aged student, maybe your kid joins and goes and spends a semester abroad while you host a student coming from abroad. It's like a cultural exchange. It makes sense, and there is an honest version of this, but you said something that stuck with me. You said that they brought you in for like cultural training. Was there anything that they said to you during that time that struck you as very strange? Like, for instance, right now, I know a lot of people my age have kids who are growing up in high school where they're trying to explain that, cutting off your genitals and dressing up like a girl makes you a woman. I find that I disagree with that, and if I had heard that in school when I was a kid, that would be shocking to me. Was there anything like that, culture shock type things that you heard that made you pause and think this is really strange, but I guess this is America and I'll just adapt to that?
Well, was a more general thing that we discussed. Like, people are different. They have just different culture. They behave in a different way. They talk in a different way. It was very, very general and not so deep into the details. So we were not told what to do. That time, maybe now it's different, but we were not told that what to do in emergencies. And we were just talking about some journal things like homesick, because what to do when you miss your home,
Got
or
it.
like how to feel better if you have no people around you, etc.
So it seemed normal at that point. And this is a future leaders exchange program. So perhaps you felt this was a good way for you to advance your career, and maybe you're in high school thinking about college. Something like this could look quite good on a resume applying to university, right?
I think this is the thing many school kids dream about, because if they have such experience to go and to study in the United States, it will help you in future. Everybody has this opinion. If you go there, it will help you with university. It will help you with the work. And that is why it was a dream for all of the school kids who knew about that program. Because it is great for many countries, like my home country, to say I was living in the United States. And you always, as a school kid, as a teenager, you think, wow, that will help me a lot. So this is a big deal for a teenager. He thinks that he's special already even before going to America.
And you're right, actually. Almost any job. Now, it's already been released. The Black Insurrectionist has already made comments that your home country is Kazakhstan. So I'm not revealing anything to say that. But again, people should put themselves into the mindset of a high schooler in Kazakhstan. Even just having the experience of having been to the United States, I'm sure you're having thoughts of maybe I could get an internship somewhere or a job, and then when I go to apply for work back in my home country, having this international experience, it's going to be beneficial, really, for any kind of career. So there's a lot of reasons why we would understand that somebody in your position would want to get involved in this. So you're accepted into the thing. They tell you that you're coming to Minnesota. What happened after that?
So I had that camp. I don't really remember if it was before I knew about my host family or after. Then basically all the information is sent to you and your family and to your some kind of mentors. and I went from my home city to another city. Then I took a train. Then some people from the program met me. Then, like, we took an airplane to one country. Then we took an airplane to the United States from that country. And from the United States, from somewhere, I had another flight to my state. So basically, it wasn't hard at all after the camp and after being the finalist. And when the paperwork was done, it was just pretty easy. Well, you don't get too much information about your host family. You just go there and know that somebody is going to meet you. You're told that you go to the airport and they're supposed to meet you. And this is the day when you come, somebody meets you, and you go straight to your new home.
Uh-huh. Did you know that this was a program of the United States Department of State at the time that you applied?
Yes, and I also knew or maybe heard that not Russian people or Kazakhstani people like check your works, because they are sent to the United States, all of the essays you write, and I think psychologists check the essays, and it's all in the US.
Uh-huh. It's interesting, see, because what appears to be going on is different states and different cities have these different, the Pan-Atlantic Foundation, the Program of Academic Exchange, World Link, STS Foundation, Youth for Understanding. These all seem like independent nonprofit organizations that might become involved with this thing and do the actual legwork of placing people like you with hosts. See, the thing that I observed just from listening to you explain this to us, and you and I have never spoken before right now, but see, the way things like this would work, this seems like, to me, something that is set up so that you, the participant, and probably the host families, and maybe even most of these nonprofits that are involved, really nobody has any reason to believe that this is anything other than what it purports to be. I'm sure there's a lot of very honest people involved in this who had the same sort of feelings that you had. This is a good opportunity for students in other countries, and it's just from a humanities standpoint, cultural exchange is always good. It's going to help us, diplomacy and getting to know each other better and peace on earth kind of thing. But it really does seem like something that predators could involve themselves in and basically go through a catalog. I mean, you said you've given them pictures, essays, stories about yourself. Someone could probably look at all that, and certainly maybe not with every applicant, but when you start looking at 10, 20, 30,000 applicants, a predator could start to get a feel for, here's someone coming maybe from a not such a favorable situation, either economically in their country or their family life or whatever it is. This is somebody who wants to come to the United States, be away from their family, get in this adventure kind of thing. Someone like Tim Walz, if he is a child predator, might involve themselves with something like this in order to gain access to people like you. Tell us what it is that has been explained in these posts from the Black insurrectionist that you've shared your story with. Give us the overview for people who maybe haven't seen this.
To the post you're reading right now?
Yeah. But what happened once you got to the United States, to Minnesota, and your alleged encounter with Tim Walz.
So, at first, I was just a normal exchange student with some maybe social problems, because it was hard for me to make friends, because this was my problem. It was hard to make friends, and I wasn't really feel the connection with my host family. So I felt like I was alone. And of course, I met some people at school, but they were like on and off. You know, sometimes you meet them, they talk to you, the next day they are not interested in you. So I felt completely alone. But a good thing about that there were always other exchange students in the program, and sometimes you would meet each other and do some volunteering work together, for example. And it would help me to socialize because I had some people maybe with similar problems. So that was my problem, and it is important to know because since I didn't have friends at school and it was hard to make, but some of the older people, like teachers, they were interested more in exchange students sometimes because they were curious just about, there is a child, a teenager from another country, and they are always curious about you because everything in our countries are different, even the way we're taught something. There are different methods. We have, I would say, different brain because we think differently, we are taught differently. So teachers were really more excited to talk with exchange students. So that was the thing with Tim, because he would be always enthusiastic about talking about my home country and my culture and the culture in the United States, and he would be very friendly. So at the point when I thought I had no friends, he seemed to be the guy who could, you know, be one of your best friends because you could share with him secrets, you could tell him everything, and
Wow.
he's very supportive. And during first couple of months, he was just a friendly teacher. He was not even my teacher because we had that thing. We had like several classes, and then after like several classes, we would have a class hour. It's not a lesson. It's just you're at school and you have some free time to be in a classroom with a teacher, with a random teacher. And sometimes he was there as the teacher over open class hour. And so we would talk a lot and more and more and more over time. And everything was all right. And the first thing that was very wrong about this, there was a very bad thing that happened to me, and definitely not a pleasant experience. Some things at school were stolen from me, from my locker, and I was very upset about it. I mean, my things were stolen, and I wouldn't have friends, and I couldn't talk about it, and I was at school. And I remember I went to the next, I told my teacher I had a problem and my things were stolen, and he said that, well, I cannot do anything about it. It made me even more upset because you're an exchange student, you're in another country, and teachers don't care about you. Because I know if it is happening in my home country, and we had situations like that, if somebody is stolen from you, students would be lined up and we would find your thing. This is how it is made. This is how teachers do in our country. They do everything to support you. And it didn't happen. I didn't expect this to happen because it was...
Let me pause you there for a second, because this is important. Now, I've never been involved in an exchange program, but I have done some international travel, and there are times that I've found myself... One time I was in South Korea, and I was doing a film production, but I was very isolated. I had only one person who was assigned to be my translator who could even speak English. And on weekends, when that person was, off and not with me, this sense of isolation in a country that is not your home, where you don't have your normal support network, time zone. Maybe you can't even pick up the phone and rant and rave to a friend or your family or something like that. This feeling of isolation, it can be very overwhelming and make you feel weak and scared. And even if you are a strong individual kind of, individualistic person, you get this cork in the ocean kind of feeling that sounds to me like what you're describing. So you really feel lost. And then when there is somebody like Tim Walz who you're describing, there's a lot of reasons perhaps that somebody in your position might find it completely normal that an adult is more interested in these ideas. Maybe students didn't like speaking to somebody with an accent. Maybe your English wasn't as good at that time as it is now. Maybe young kids are not as sensitive to other people's feelings as adults. So it might make sense to you that these teachers are showing you more interest than would seem normal in another circumstance. I mean, am I close to right about how you might have been feeling at this time?
Yes, and this is, yes, you would hear something like this because when I was extremely upset about my things, and the teacher didn't care about it. And the next lesson, I was almost crying lying on my desk. I came to that open class hour hoping just that maybe some people will talk to me and help me or do something about it. And when I came there, I saw Tim, and he knew that something was wrong because he could see I was almost crying. I was lost and upset, and I didn't know what to do. So he asked what happened, and he saw how I felt. So after a little while, he invited me to another classroom, which was empty, because and that time I thought that I was thinking he's so friendly, because I was almost crying and I didn't want to tell about it to the whole class, and I wanted to share this information. So from my point of view back then, he did a very good thing, because I thought he wanted to make me feel more comfortable. So, and when he invited me there, it made me a little bit more relaxed, because I would know him for some time and everything would be all right. And I would tell this story about my things that were lost and that nobody cared. And I asked for help or asked about the things I could do. And he was very supportive, and he would just show his support in different ways. He would say something, he said that he would help, he said that he will talk to other teachers, he told me that we would find out something, and he would, flap my shoulder, like worry a lot, it's okay, and he would flap my back to say, you're okay, don't worry, I'll do everything I can. And when I finished the story, and I was a little too emotional, he hugged me, and when he hugged me, the first strange thing happened, because he touched my butt. And he did it for a couple of times, but when you're emotional, and I was telling him about my problems, and I expected some help, and he said he would help, I didn't even think that was strange. I will tell you more, I was grateful, and I didn't pay attention to that thing he did, that he touched my butt, because for me it's like a person is hugging you and it happens by accident, and I was not thinking about that at all. It's the thing you think about later, which sounds, I feel so stupid now, because
no, don't feel that way, because I mean, as you're describing, see, people hear these stories and they're not necessarily in the emotional moment. I mean, you're feeling alone and isolated. How old were you at this time?
What again?
How old were you when this was happening? 15? 16?
I was 16.
Right, so you're very young. You're at a time in your life where you're not understanding things about relationships or your own body or your own sexuality, and you're feeling very isolated at a time when maybe other people would be having friends. If you had remained in Kazakhstan, maybe you would feel more like part of a group. And here's a guy, one person, who is the one person anywhere around who's remotely making you feel better. Yeah, I mean, you just ignore that one, and he's doing something, right? He didn't just outright start in with doing all the most obvious and objectionable stuff. He starts by doing something small that maybe you won't notice. It's almost like if somebody bumps you in a crowd and then steals your wallet. You don't notice that motion of stealing the wallet because this big thing of them bumping you, it's almost like he's distracting you with all this emotional, he's hugging you and putting your mind at ease, and then he sneaks in this thing. He's trying to normalize a certain kind of behavior with you. So you became friends with him, and then now he's inviting you to an Indigo Girls concert or something like that?
So we would often talk during the school days a lot, pretty often, and sometimes, but of course not every day. We would walk by school somewhere in the park and talk more. Of course, it wouldn't happen like too often because I guess, well, teachers have their own schedule or something, but sometimes he was leaving earlier than he was supposed to, and we would walk around before I was going to my phone. And he was very friendly in a way. For example, he would bring some treats, and he would try this, try that. You don't have it in your home country. And I was thinking, cool, this is great. And the more we met each other, and at one point it seemed that he started to seek me out or something, because we started meeting more often. We started to talk more about personal stuff, not just the things in general, not about countries and cultures, even though, well, he seemed to be very interesting in my home country and cultures and how the cultures are different, like American one and from Kazakhstan. And then we would start talking about more personal things, like later I will tell if I had a crush on a girl and he would want me to talk about this. He asked me about my experiences with the girls, how did I feel about it, if I liked it or not, what did I do, how do I talk to them. And he would, but it wasn't weird. I don't know why, because maybe you meet an older person and you discuss such not normal topics you cannot talk about with your host family, and you
Right.
seem, you think you're the special person. You feel, wow, I have such a great person in my life. It's such a cool experience.
Let me
And
ask you this,
I
Rick.
would-
Let me just real quick. What is your father still alive? What's your family like? And not to get too personal, but was this sort of a father figure maybe that you had missed elsewhere in life?
No, I don't think my family is okay. They are retired.
But you were away from them at this time. So you're growing up, there's nobody right there to talk to, and here's a guy who's talking to you about seemingly normal stuff, being a friend, almost like a big brother or an uncle or a teacher or somebody you can confide in.
Wouldn't think of him like a father, but I would think about it as a older best friend, like an older person, but who can be on your level.
Wisdom,
This
yeah,
is-
but you can still talk to him openly.
And during that time, that was I was pretty happy about that, because I think like this is so cool. This was my feelings about that. So maybe sometimes now I'm thinking about it. For example, in different situations, it's always different. For example, when I lost my things, maybe I needed a dad figure like father who will help you and solve your problem. And when I was not socialized and I didn't have friends, and I had this teacher talking to me and spending time with me, I thought, wow, we could be great friends. So I think it's a mix of roles.
Yeah. Well, and let me ask you this, because we see here that Gwen Walz was an English teacher while Tim Walz was the geography teacher. I don't know if they were married while you were there in the high school, but did you interact with Gwen Walz at all? There's some discussion of that in the Black Insurrectionist. She almost seemed to enable some of what he was doing.
So another strange thing, he made it. He would tell me like your secrets, and you can share everything you want with me, and I accepted. And he made me believe that no one else would accept my thoughts except him. And he said like he would tell me more about himself, but the thing he did, he made me share all of my experience and thoughts with him, and he wouldn't be too personal about himself a lot. So he made it very personal about me. And other than that, we would talk about me and my experience. Sometimes he would tell me about, like, when I was talking about a crush, for example, of course, he would tell me something like, I had the same thing, blah, blah, blah. And he was telling what he did, what to do. But basically, he would never talk about himself that much. He would make me talk about my things that were going on in my life. So
it's interesting. So it really seemed like he was trying to, he was grooming you, right? Black Insurrectionist, he's posted a number of different tweets here talking about how do you want to get into exactly what he did to you? How did it, he sexually assaulted you, right?
So, can you repeat the question? I don't get it very well.
Well, I'm just saying the Black Insurrectionist, whose real name I don't know, but I have followed quite a lot, and I think he's doing a good job covering your story. He's laid out this story, including the graphic details of what happened at this Indigo Girl, or after this Indigo Girls concert. People can read that on X. Do you want to go into any details about this, or tell us, what happened after this occurred? How did this... Take us through where the sexual relationship began, where you started to realize this was not something that you wanted, and how it ended, and where things left off with you and Tim Walz.
So my story, so after it's like a pieces of the whole story. So the first wrong thing that happened was with the phone and stuff that was stolen from me, and he would touch me in inappropriate places of my body, and after that he would talk to me a lot and about me, about my personal life, about my feelings to another sex, etc. And there were two more stories that were connected to me, like I would call them assaults or some kind of assaults. Once we were talking, and I don't know how we came up to that thing, but in Kazakhstan, we don't have. It is called a plantain. It looks like a banana, but it's not a banana. Somehow we came up to that thing, and I told him we have just I've never tried a plantain yet. So we had only bananas. And he's like, what? And he said one day he will bring some and we'll try some. And one day he brought some grilled plantain with something. And we would walk and he would try to feed me with his fingers.
Wow.
Because he brought it in a like plastic bag or something, and he was like teasing me and trying to feed with his fingers. This is another thing that by that time I was not like emotional, like the time with the things I lost. It was very weird, but he was like more like teasing. He made it seem like he's teasing me, trying to put it in my mouth. And
Right.
that was very strange. And there are two more things that happened to me and Tim. Another story. Once he collected some guys to go to a swimming pool because I actually didn't know how to swim. Like, we don't really have oceans or seas in my home country. And I was like, pool? And there were some other people like going there with him. He would be like, collected the students, and it was okay because many people did that. Sometimes they just collect the students and you would go somewhere and nobody cares if you go somewhere with anyone. So we went to a swimming pool and I didn't know how to swim. And like I was told like you should float on your back, and just he gave me some instructions and he was always near me and he would touch my back trying to support me, but while supporting my back he would touch my butt, touch my legs, and go from back to legs again all over touching me. And that was a very weird thing, almost the last weird thing that happened to me, because later we had a very bad argument and I told him that I feel very bad and ran out to the toilet and said an excuse and spent the rest of my time somewhere else. And since he was kind of seeking me out and still talking about cultures, the last thing that happened, there was some kind of gay alliance or something, and we were talking about gays and lesbians and relationship of teenagers, about my crushes, and he would make me talk about my emotions concerning my crush, and he would tell me that I had a like female side in me, and I felt that he started persuading me like that I have a like female something in me. Even he knew that I had a crush on a girl at school, and that time we had a very bad argument. And after that argument he made it very clear that I'm not supposed to talk about our conversations to anyone, and he made it very clear that if I tell it to my mentor, and exchange students have mentors, or my host family, he would do anything so I would be deported to my home country without a certificate, without the document that shows
Wow.
that I spent a year in the United States.
Now, wait a minute.
That
So this
argument
is...
would
Yeah, sorry. What was the argument? What was the nature of the argument?
the argument started when he was talking about my female side, and I would tell him about some strange things he did. And back then, at that point, I started arguing with him, asking more things. Why would he do something, and trying to persuade me? And we had an argument, and he made that clear that I will be deported, and he made me feel very bad, saying that I will betray my family in my home country just it will help you to go to university, to get a job. Don't be stupid. Don't like. And after that argument, I would avoid him very much. But the good thing in the story that after we had that argument and I started avoiding him, he wouldn't try to seek me out again like that. He tried to seem friendly when I was around people, but we would never communicate anymore.
So it's almost like you had crossed a line in that moment where you kind of realized he was up to some shenanigans. Sounds like he became threatening, telling you that he was going to put your entire time in the United States at risk. That's a pretty aggressive change in position. Obviously, that's the moment you broke the relationship and didn't talk with him anymore. Now, there's some news reporting about how Tim Walz once advised a high school's gay-straight alliance. That sounds like what you're talking about.
Yeah, there was something like that, but I would never go and attend to anything like that. But he would be persuading me to explore different sides of me. I don't know how to express it clearly. Yeah.
So this is an article here from Forbes telling us that the creation of the Gay-Straight Alliance in 1999 was spurred by a former student of Waltz's wife, Gwen. The student was Jacob Rayton, who was increasingly bullied towards the end of his time at Mankato West High School and eventually asked school officials for support to start the organization, according to the New York Times. So what was your interaction with his wife, with Waltz's wife? Was there any?
No, just him. Excuse me, can you go back to the story, please?
Sure. So,
I think, can you go back? I think, I've got a question, which is very important. Just a second. I still don't like talking about it. And have you heard the previous conversation that I had?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Yeah, because I think this post, it consists of different stories from other students, and it's not a part of my story. And the things I have discussed during another interview, maybe you've heard about that. I was talking only about my experiences, and I don't know the guys who shared all of the other experiences. Yeah, my personal experiences, I would separate it in several different parts. He was touching me when I had a problem in school and my things were stolen. He was treating me too friendly, buying fruits, and then the plantain thing, teaching me how to swim and persuading that I have something female in me. And after that, we had an argument. But other than that, I wasn't invited to the concerts or anything. So the thing, I did a very bad mistake. I was reading the comments, and the day I started reading the comments, I felt very bad, and I didn't even see the posts and everything that people are writing about it. But I believe there are different people sharing the experiences.
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, I might be a little confused as well because I got your information. I had seen a post from, I think, Red Pill 78.
Yes, this was the only conversation I had, which was pretty emotional. Now it's a little bit easier. But I think it's a little bit mixed up with other stories. Because if you listen to that interview, you will hear my experience. Yeah, so.
Got it. Okay, so people should listen to this from Red Pill 78. I saw is that you there? Oh.
No,
that's Dugan. That's Dugan. So, right, I had seen that Red Pill 78. That's weird. I thought Dugan wasn't doing videos. I just spoke to Dugan earlier this morning, and he was mentioned here on Red Pill 78. I hadn't seen this video. But sometimes what happens, and I don't know Red Pill 78. I've seen him throughout the years. I've no beef with Red Pill 78, but sometimes people say Dugan has said things that it turns out that he hasn't said. So I called him, and he confirmed that he has spoken with you and that this is all true from what Dugan knows. And so he put you and I in touch, and that's how we got here. So thank you for clarifying that, because now we have a better understanding. Perhaps there are people sending information to Black insurrectionists from other victims of Tim Walz, or perhaps someone's trying to confuse your story by conflating it with other things. So what would you like to see happen now?
Well, can you... So, first of all, I want to say that I was so confused because still, it's English. And when you were asking questions, I tried, maybe I was thinking, maybe I understand something in the wrong way. I'm glad we made that clear now. And if you listen to this, I mostly talk about the things we have discussed today because I wanted you to have a clear comprehension of the program and what it is like to be an exchange student in that position, and only the things that happened to me personally. I can, because there are many. The first thing I would like to mention, I'm doing it. I think it's not the best time to do it actually. It happened to be in such a time. I should have done it long ago, but I'm not doing it. Maybe I'm doing it for myself. I thought I have left this story a long time ago, but when the last time I talked about it, I didn't feel good, and I was too emotional. And I'm still too emotional about it. I didn't know that I would be too emotional. I'm doing it for other exchange students because they need to know that they should be more open about that. They should know about the things that are not supposed to happen with them. This is why I'm here.
Yeah. Well, and it's not just exchange students. I think there could be a lot of young people who face challenges, and there's a limited number of adults that they can put their trust in. Somebody at school, the way you describe Tim Walz taking advantage of you as a much younger person, it's predatory, it's terrible, and I believe you. I think this is a true story. What can you say? We had heard that Tim Walz, when he went back to the high school, they were calling him Touchdown Timmy. Have you heard that nickname?
Well, maybe, I don't think so.
You haven't heard that. And did you hear any rumors at the high school that he was like this, that he would hang out with male students?
Well, you would definitely hang out with many students.
Maybe too much interest in the students.
Huh?
Maybe he had too much interest in the students, it sounds like.
Well, according to my experience, I could definitely tell that he was interested in students and male students. And according to my experience, I have no doubt about that.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us, Rick, and I hope that your life in Kazakhstan is good and hasn't been negatively impacted by this beyond recovery, and I hope you're doing well. One interesting thing that I've discovered just in the course of our conversation is that this flex thing seems to be, getting a lot of money or somehow connected to this American Councils for International Education. I don't know what this is, but this is another one of these nonprofits run by this dude, David Patton, that seems to be sending lots of money around to get students into high schools where people like Tim Walz can do all kinds of things. But these guys are getting paid loads of money from this nonprofit. This is going to be something to dig into.
Can you imagine that hundreds of students from many different countries go to the United States by Flex and some other programs that are sponsored by the United States? Hundreds, thousands of students. Thousands and thousands of students each year. And the worst thing about that, I'm pretty sure that each year something like this happens, not exactly with like school teachers, but I knew people during my year, students, who I knew a girl who was raped, and she wouldn't talk about it because
By the host family? Who raped her?
Not a host family, not just somebody raped her on a trip. She didn't talk about it because she didn't get deported.
Oh my
this
God.
is a very common thing, and this is why I want to talk about this. And then this is during my year. That was like 20 years ago. And I would hear some other stories that, sometimes problems are with host families, sometimes at schools, sometimes from the people the same age, sometimes older. There is a problem that needs to be solved.
Yeah, there definitely is. Wow. Well, it's a bit overwhelming, Rick. I don't know what else to say. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me about this. Is there anything else you want to discuss that we haven't covered?
Well, actually, when I got the message about talking, I've decided that I'd rather do it today, and I don't want to go back to it again because I felt really bad after the first interview, being too emotional. The second emotional thing was reading the comments and people, and when it's I'm not the brave one. I just want other people to share their experiences about what happened to them, and maybe I'm not the brave one, but I want other people to be braver than me, or at least to share the experience to prevent bad things.
I think it takes courage, and I'm sorry for what happened to you. I appreciate you speaking to us, Rick, and certainly if there's anything else that you want to discuss, you've got an open invitation to return. Thanks to everybody for tuning in, and Rick, I wish you well. Hopefully Tim Walz will not become Vice President of the United States.
Hope all the people deserve, I think maybe somehow just everything returns. So it doesn't mean maybe not in this life, but I just believe in that everything returns.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us, Rick, and thank you for sharing your story. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great day.